Welcome to FlamesNation Radio. He's Shane. I'm Ryan. Hi, Shane. As always, we're delivered to you by DoorDash and by Eau Claire Distillery's Rupert's Whiskey, the official whiskey of the Calgary Flames. I imagine at the end of this week, especially at the end of Tuesday, a very busy Tuesday, Brad Treliving probably wanted to kick back with a nice, tasty beverage because he put in some work this week. So we'll just, what do you think, Shane? Let's just broadly discuss the bunch of stuff that happened this week. Let's start off with something that might get overshadowed a bit by the rest of the news, but is nonetheless still pretty important. The Calgary Wranglers are back.
Love it.
The Calgary Flames have been dealing with, let's be honest, moving a team is logistically challenging. There's a bunch of moving pieces, not limited to, but including copyrights, trademarks, this, that, and the other thing. So evidently enough hoops have been gone through by the fine folks over there that they were able to unveil the name and the branding and logo for the new American Hockey League affiliate of the Calgary Flames, the Calgary Wranglers, who will be co-located in the Saddle Dome with the Calgary Flames, as in they'll be just down the hall, which will be kind of fun because you'll be able to see the guys who are next man up. So the Flames farm team will be known as the Calgary Wranglers. So I don't know if how old everyone is who listens to this podcast, so bear this in mind. So in the history of Calgary, there are a good many damn fine hockey clubs. One of the original ones was the Calgary Stampeders, who for various reasons the Flames weren't going to name their farm team the Stampeders because it'd be unnecessarily confusing. There's the Calgary Cowboys, which were a failed WHA team who were only in the league, only here for a cup of coffee. They were the last pro team before the Flames arrived. But the team that people probably have the most fond memories of outside the Centennials is the Calgary Wranglers, who were the team that that produced a ton of junior age talent to the National Hockey League, not limited to, but including Mike Vernon, whose numbers retired by the Flames. So I think it's really cool. And the cool thing is, so the old Wranglers logo back in the day was, and the Hitmen dusted this off for the Corral series a few years ago. The Wranglers logo is a W with the silhouette of a dude on a horse, with the lassoing the W. It's a badass design. And so the Flames, I think, realizing that you're never going to improve upon perfection, went in a different direction. And the cool thing is, so the logo is a W, and they took the in the middle the middle part of the W, the
bottom part,
the middle part of the W looks like an A, and they actually in the arch of the W they put in the flaming A flame. They put a little, usually the flaming A is a bit of a silhouette. They put a couple accents in it and then turn it into a W, and it's very clean, it's very understated, and it's really good. And if you don't like this, if you don't like the logo, you're allowed to like what you want to like, not like what you want to like, but it's objectively a very nice logo, and they did a very nice job on it.
I don't know who had a say in it, but whoever helped also pick the font for it, for the actual written out name, bravo as well. It's
it looks like the Calgary Stampeders font.
Yeah, it does, and it's just clean. It just works kind of together. The spacing, it looks very nice. I'm excited to see what the jerseys will look like. I'm sure, and you have to at some point think they will throw in a old school Wranglers throwback jersey at some point. That would be fantastic. Yeah, I love the nostalgia that comes back, and the fact that even on days when the Flames are out of town, there might still be professional hockey played in the Dome and in Calgary, giving more people more things to do and more reasons to get downtown. So
yeah, and
I love it.
Let's be honest. I mean, if you want to say, oh, I can't believe they just made the logo Flaming C or Flaming W. The Flames, when they moved from Atlanta, went, let's just keep it a Flaming C. That'd be kind of fun. The Flames in the 80s did the lazy thing, and it worked. And the Flames have a simple, understated, I would argue, classic logo. And the folks at CSEC, when they did the design for the Wranglers logo, they did a slight redesign. And I would argue they went in the same direction that they did when the Flames moved here. And I think it's the right move because it doesn't need to be, you're not gonna. It's not like you're not gonna go to the games, or you're gonna go to the games because of the logo. You're not gonna be like, no one's sitting around going home like, I'm sure Vikings fan here doesn't go, you know what I love about the Minnesota Vikings? The logo. No, the folks who like the Vikings or dislike the Vikings do it in, just do it because of the on-field pain they get put through, not because of logos. So I think it's kind of
right where it hurts.
Yeah, right. You deserve it.
I do.
Hey, I'm a Cubs fan. I'm used to suffering. And again, the Cubs, their main logo is just the letter C.
Yeah.
Because you don't need to over design it. Just make it interesting and fun. So that's kind of cool. Also, the Wranglers were holding off on announcing some signings, mostly because they didn't have a team name yet, and saying AHL Calgary signs blank is kind of weird. We had confirmed one signing last week, Mitch McLean, formerly of the Milwaukee Admirals, and before that, the Iowa Wild. Yeah, there's still the Iowa Wild.
Yep, still Wild.
As an aside, there's the Iowa Heartlanders in a different part of that state, and the Iowa Wild, who are not affiliated with the Heartlanders, but are also a pro hockey team. It's very confusing. But yeah, Mitch McLean will be sort of a depth center for them. But the Wranglers announced 4 other signings. One is not surprising anyway. Daniil Chechelev was on an American League contract last year with the Flames and spent the majority of the year in Kansas City in the ECHL. And he spent a bit of time in the AHL. He played a little bit. He was fine. He'll get a chance to be fine again. He'll probably end up in wherever their ECHL team is, because they have Oscar Dansk as the backup to AHL reigning goaltender of the year, Dustin Wolf, which we're apparently legally required by our contracts to say every time we mention his name at least once.
Yeah, he's got an actual title now. So
AHL reigning goaltender of the year, Dustin Wolf, is going to be the starter. Oscar Dansk is going to be the backup, and Daniil Chechelev probably ends up in wherever the ECHL team is. They will have an ECHL team, and it's an existing team. They're not going to, they're not anyone. I've been told more than I can say publicly. All I'm going to say is, when it gets announced, you go, oh, okay. Like, it's the ECHL affiliate. It's not meant to be. It's the
East Coast Hockey League. It's going to be on the East Coast, and it's going to be
the ECHL doesn't stand for anything anymore.
No, it used to be.
It used to be the East Coast Hockey League, and then when they merged with the West Coast Hockey League, they simply got rid of the initials. They don't stand for anything anymore. It's weird, but what else are you going to call the league?
It's the tertiary affiliate of NHL teams.
Yeah. So the other signings, they signed defenseman Simon Levine and Rhett Reinhardt to AHL 1-year contracts. Both of those guys were on in development camp on tryouts. Rhett Reinhardt actually came in late last year after Prince Albert finished up their season, and he was on, I believe, a PTO or ATO or whatever it was. He practiced with the team. They seemed to like him enough to sign him to a full-time deal this year. That's kind of cool. He's big. He's right-handed. So is Levine. Levine is big and left-handed. You got a Prairie boy. You got a Quebec boy. They're both burly defensemen. It fits. Maybe they end up in the coast too. Maybe they end up just as depth guys. The interesting one is they also signed Brett Sutter.
I love it though.
For those of you wondering, wait, Brett Sutter, who was Brett Sutter was drafted by the Flames when his dad was the GM, made the team eventually. He was a pretty decent pro, decent NHL
pro. Yeah, he's an all-world pro.
Yeah, he was a a bottom 6 to replacement level NHL forward. He got traded by his father to Carolina after getting in a bit of an altercation outside of a bar in Phoenix while the Flames were on a road trip. That was, I believe, the trade that made Anton Babchuk and Tom Kostopoulos Calgary Flames. I think I have that one right. And then since then, he hasn't played a ton of the NHL, but he recently played
in AHL. He's the definition of an AHL.
Mr. AHL. Last season he played his 1,000th NHL game. He played 7 or 8 years in Ontario of the American League with the Reign.
Captain for 5.
Yeah. So, if the idea is he gets to come home, he gets to play in front of family and friends, he gets to play in the same building that his dad coaches in. And, if let's be honest, he's 35 years old going on 36. This is probably going to be the beginning of the wind down for his pro career. He seems like a guy based on his leadership capabilities. He'll be a coach of some kind. Probably, I'd imagine, either the Kings or the Flames organizations. And for a very, very young team, we've looked at we look at Puck Peter Cap Friendly and look at the depth charts of the Flames and their minor league affiliate. they most of the guys aren't old enough to rent a car. Most of them don't remember the Calgary Wranglers.
No.
Most of
Wranglers,
them
I technically shouldn't remember the Calgary Wranglers, Pike. They were 7 years before my time.
You heathen. But yeah, so if the idea is you're like, you need to have some gray hair in that locker room to sort of, bring some perspective, bring some, game management, just to manage the room, to teach these guys how to be pros and adults. Brett Sutter is a damn fine pro. He'll probably wear a letter. I'd be shocked if it's not a C. As in he'll be the captain of the Wranglers. He won't be in the NHL because he's on an AHL deal. But yeah, it's the kind of move when it happens, you go, huh. Okay.
No, but this is what the cool thing about Calgary finally having their affiliate be at home in Calgary is Brett can live in Calgary and see his dad and his mom and his brother, and his family can interact with them more often and see more family. Like this is just, before this year, it was never a feasible thing. And now it's,
if you can't, like, if I'd imagine he probably had some options because of who he is and what he's done as a pro. And I would imagine he probably had, it was probably a choice for him between sticking around in California and coming home. And I imagine he's probably not going broke playing in the American League. I imagine they're probably playing him reasonably well.
Salaries are pretty good.
He's easily probably a decent salary. But I mean, it's an audition for him. And I think, it's kind of fun to sort of see how he does in that role, because it's, again, super young farm team. And if you look at the forwards, I mean, there's going to be some competition in the Wranglers roster for some ice time under Chelelev. So I think if you're some of these young guys, having someone like Brett Sutter playing with you and sort of pushing you could be really good for their development.
Someone that also knows what his dad's going to want if you want to go up to the big leagues. The first thing I thought of was like how much of his nieces and his nephews are going to actually get to come watch Uncle Brett play hockey. There's tons of them in the province, right? His uncles, like, it's just another great thing to help grow interest in the game that they can do even with their minor league team. Now there's a local draw that you can go and watch. Not that reigning AHL goaltender of the year, Dustin Wolf, doesn't need a more than enough introduction, but they've got a good young team with a lot of young prospects, and they'll have a nice leader that knows exactly what the big club wants.
Just looking at the depth chart now that I've mocked up, it depends what happens with the depth guys in Calgary, but I have right now penciled in Adam Ruzicka, Cole Schwint, Matthew Phillips, Emilio Peterson, Connor Zary, Walker Dorr, Martin Pospisil, Brett Sutter, Adam Klapka, Rory Cairns, Ilya Nikolaev, and Mitch McLean as the AHL level forwards. They're probably going to, I imagine, sign one or two more guys just to fill out the bottom side of that roster. We probably won't hear much more about AHL signings till probably September, because at that point you're looking at guys on PTOs, guys who are willing to come in and sort of take those kind of roles. But yeah, Brett Sutter's a fun story, and I think it'll be really interesting to see how that unfolds. Transitioning very briefly, my friend. So the World Juniors are coming up. The Flames, the only prospective Flame heading there, more likely than not, Matt Coronado. The USA Hockey announced that they've cut their roster from wherever the hell it was to 27 guys. And I believe right now I think they have 2 cuts left, 1 forward, 1 defenseman. I don't think it's unfair to say that Coronado's on the team. He made the team.
He's not in danger.
Yeah, Coronado.
He was on the team earlier.
He made the team. He made the team at Christmas. He's gonna, he's on the team again. So it's, it's a second chance for him to sort of close it out. And I would argue, I mean, Coronado probably heading into his last year of college before he signs pro, unless something really unforeseen happens. He had last year after he came back from the World Juniors, it took him a little bit of, I would say the big turning point for him was the Olympics, because before, like, he was one of many. He was a good contributor, but he was arguably a sort of a secondary guy learning the ropes under some of his veteran teammates at Harvard. And then a few of his veteran teammates went to the Olympics in February, and as a result, they had some forwards ice time to divvy up, and he got a bigger role. And flat out, they made the NCAA tournament because he basically said, "Jump on my back, boys." And he was that kind of player when he was with the Chicago Steel. He was a guy who scored goals at key moments in the USHL and at prep school, pretty much up every level of hockey up to this point. And the question was, can Matt Coronado be Matt Coronado in the NCAA? And the answer in the second half was yes. Now the question is, can Matt Coronado be Matt Coronado at the World Juniors? And I am fascinated to see if he can do it.
I'm fascinated to see, because it's not like when you go to Harvard, it's not like they send you home for the summer and say, have fun, boys. They go, yeah, here's a targeted workout regimen. Here's what we want you to work on. Here's what we want to get better at, on top of all the assets that Flames can help him with. Now he's limited until he signs, because they're not supposed to get so much help, but
they're involved.
You're definitely not going to have an asset like that.
He was at development camp. The first development camp he's been able to attend since being drafted last year.
So I'm excited to see what a summer of work with professional help. Like you've had your season at Harvard. Now you've got them helping you. You've got that coaching staff. You've got the Flames. It excites me to see what kind of step he can take with all the tools he's had.
The head coach at Harvard, Ted Donato, Ryan Donato's dad, he's good. And I think the fact, if you look, since Donato's been at Harvard, they put a lot of guys in the show. And if the idea is you want to get a couple years of good education under your belt, get a good chunk of a good degree, and also get ready to play pro hockey, I can think of worse places to be. So Coronado is going to be at the World Juniors. The World Juniors go August 9th to 20th in Edmonton, Alberta. Summer's officially here. What better way to cool off than at the rink during the first ever Summer World Juniors? Single game tickets for the tournament are still available and on sale now. They start at just $40, so grab your sunglasses. The Bright Stars in the junior game are coming to Edmonton. I can think of no better way to spend time in Edmonton than in their beautiful arena, which objectively it's a nice arena. The press box is way too far away from the ice, but I mean, if your main complaint about somebody's arena is the press box is too far away, it's a pretty nice rink. I mean, let's be honest here. It's not, it ain't falling down anytime soon. So go if you want to check it out, go check it out. Coronado will be the only Flames affiliated player at that tournament, and it should be a good tournament. The World Juniors, it's always going to be this is going to be a really fascinating World Junior, Shane, because a lot of key players from pretty much every country aren't going, because it's an August World Juniors. For the Flames folks, develop the training camp for the rookies, I believe, begins the 13th or 14th of September. So if you're trying to peak your training, you're trying to maybe get a week of rejuvenation, sit in a hot tub for a week and just chill, let your body recover from your off season of training before you jump into camp. And then, a lot of the NHLers start arriving in Calgary, for example, at other cities, but we only care about Calgary. A lot of the NHLers arrive last week in August, first week in September, and then go to Winsport to play a little bit of shinny, just get, do some unofficial workouts, and then they're all ready to rock and roll when main camp opens. And so if you're an 18-year-old, 19-year-old kid, you have an NHL contract and you think you can make the team or make a good push for the team, I can kind of see why you'd be like, August World Juniors. But that's the worst possible time to put that.
The funniest one to me is Mason McTavish is going, and it's like it's almost but assured that he's definitely playing on the Ducks next year. And I think it's just like, no, don't worry about it. Like you're gonna play whenever. Like he's the guy that played in 5 different leagues, 5 different levels.
The last 2 years, he's gone everywhere, man.
Yeah. But, so him going back, I was just like, it doesn't faze me. Like that's just normal, but. I wish there's more Flames, but we gotta wait for that.
Yeah, so. It'll feel weird, folks cheering for USA, but just lean into it.
Cheer for Canada to win 4-3 and a Coronado hat trick. We're good to go.
Exactly. Coronado silver medal. That's what you gotta hope for. Moving on, other big news: Brad Treliving went to dinner in Montreal. So a couple weeks ago on a Friday night, the Flames made a trade. You might have heard about it. The Flames traded some guy named Matthew Tkachuk, their highest paid player on the team. They traded him to the Florida Panthers in exchange for 4 assets, a conditional 2025/2026 first rounder.
Love that.
Cole Schwint, who is a good AHL player.
Good face-off man.
Mackenzie Weegar, who almost immediately becomes Calgary's best defenseman, and second NHL second leading scorer and 5th in Hart voting last year. I did not have him on my ballot, but he's good. No one's going to complain about him. Jonathan Huberdeau, And so after about 10 days of after the dust settled, Brad Treliving flew to Montreal and had dinner with him. And Wes Gilbertson over at Post Media had a chat with Brad Treliving. Head over to Post Media's website, check that out. I retweeted on my feed because Wes's stuff is always just very good. And Brad shared with Wes that he just wanted to head out there and meet face to face. They don't know each other, they've never met. So if the idea is you're Brad Treliving and you're thinking maybe I want to give this guy a bushel full of money at some point in the near future,
I might want to know who he is.
Yeah, and maybe before you sit down and deal with agents and budgets and this, that, and the other thing, sit down, have a meal, have a chat, figure out what each other's about. I mean, their fates are probably tied. I mean, if Huberdeau, if the Flames have a good season and Huberdeau is around for a while, I imagine Brad Treliving is too. And so, I mean, if you're going to be hitching your wagon to a guy, you want to know what he's all about. And that, I think that goes in both directions. So makes sense. And it's kind of cool. We have no idea where they went for dinner, so don't ask.
We have no idea what the menu is, folks. We don't know if they had Thai chicken bites or they went to a real restaurant.
Ooh, come on, man.
I love Boston Pizza.
No, we do not shame Boston Pizza on this fine program.
It's a legacy.
What we're reasonably sure is they probably didn't go to Montana's, which is a shame because it's all you can eat ribs at Montana's until September 12th. They have their all you can eat pork back ribs. They're you can get freshly great cornbread and you get your choice of baked beans or coleslaw and seasoned fries as your sides. If you've ever been to Montana's, you know that their ribs are very meat filled and saucy, and you're gonna get the meat sweats afterwards. So if you're going there, make sure you have a designated driver to make sure that you don't fall asleep on the drive home, because it's they're not insubstantial. If you're going for all you can eat ribs, you want to commit to it. So make sure you have a buddy with you just to make sure you're okay. And if you get all in
favor,
exactly. That's the important thing. So you want to make sure that you take care of that. The other thing that's going on, and we talked about it last week, we're talking about it again this week. If you're thinking, I don't know, all you can eat ribs, that's a big commitment. How do I know if I'm ready to eat all I can eat of these ribs? The Rib Fest, Montana's touring Rib Fest, is this Friday, which is, if you're listening to this on Thursday, it's tomorrow, Friday the 5th of August, at Sandy Beach Park along the Glenmore along the Elbow River. I believe it's just north of Glenmore Park. If you don't know how to get there, Google it, grab an Uber, head over there. They're going to have all kinds of games and stuff, but most importantly, they're going to have samples of their ribs. So if you're thinking, I don't know, man, ribs, I don't know. I mean, first of all,
I don't know anybody like that, but
I think we all know, outside of committed vegetarians, I think everyone's a little bit curious about Rib Fest. So check it out. And
tell you folks, from forehead to his neck, that's the size of the rack of ribs Quads was eating. So
yeah. And if you end up going to Rib Fest, either the all you can eat variety at the fine restaurants or at the event on Friday, take a photo of yourself, see how saucy you get, and make sure you hashtag that Montana's Get Messy. That's their slogan. And yeah, see how saucy you can get. My mom always shared a spaghetti photo of me. I have no idea how I did this. I had sauce from like here all the way like up to into my hair. I assume it was only done by me just sort of dropping my face directly into the bowl and trying to eat my way out. And that is the philosophy I bring with me when I eat ribs. So I assume other people have better form than I do, but I don't care. I'm unabashedly a fan of ribs and my own terrible way of ingesting food.
I just assume no one wants to see me even try doing that. So we'll just go from there and move on.
Some things are better left to the imagination, and some things are just too beautiful for words. And that is, take your pick, which one.
Don't tell me, folks. Just pick one and keep it to yourself.
So in addition to meals in Montreal, AHL teams, and the World Juniors, the Flames signed three guys to contracts on Tuesday. We'll go in inverse order of cap hit and importance. No disrespect, we're starting with you, Martin Pospisil. Martin Pospisil signed a one-year, 2A deal with the league minimum of $750,000. Martin Pospisil just comes off his entry-level deal. Martin Pospisil might be the most interesting player to me amongst the most interesting players in the organization because he's big, he's built, he's like a thick boy. He crashes, he bangs, he scores goals. Like he's one of those guys where remember when Mark Jankowski was a Calgary Flame? The big question in his development was he's a big dude, but can he play big? Because there's some big dudes. All respect to Jay Bouwmeester. Jay Bouwmeester was a big boy. Jay Bouwmeester, yeah, he was he was basically a stick figure, and he used his length to defend. He wasn't a big crash and bang guy, but Bouwmeester was an excellent skater. Bouwmeester used that length very well. Martin Pospisil is a thick boy. He's big.
Pospisil, like when you were saying the Janko, I was like, Pospisil's got some weight to him.
I would say Pospisil is a bit thicker than Jankowski, but I think he's a little bit shorter, but he's thicker, and he plays bigger and meaner than probably guys like who have half a foot and 20 pounds on him. He's big, he's mean, and the big problem for him is like if you look at his numbers every year, he's got real good numbers, but you're like, why did he play more games? Like
why did he play 36 games? Why did he play 42? Like it's because he's hurt.
He's got terrible luck, and sometimes like you have terrible luck because you put yourself in weird situations. I mean, I'm never gonna victim blame when it comes to injuries because weird shit happens. Yeah. But weird shit happens sometimes when you're going 100 miles an hour into the boards against a guy. So I mean, he's had terrible luck. I hope he has better luck. I also hope he can pick his spots a bit better because he's like a good, like you remember that year, Michael Ferland's a good example. Michael Ferland was another guy who sort of played, mean and nasty and had that chip on his shoulder. I think he was a great pro before the injuries piled up on him, especially the concussions. Yeah. And, you hope that a guy can play the way he wants to play and play the way he can be successful and also have a long and healthy post-hockey career. And I was talking to some folks last week who know Michael, and Fairley's doing pretty good. He's coaching hockey in his hometown. He's hanging out with his kids. I don't know how many kids he has, but apparently he's enjoying life, and hopefully Martin Pospisil gets to enjoy life. And I imagine he'd enjoy life a lot more if he stayed healthy for a full season and played some NHL games because
his cap
NHL money is good.
Important because if they're ever in a cap crunch, there's two guys at league min on forward that are easier to call up because their cap hit is $150,000 less than someone else. And that's Matthew Phillips at $750,000 and now Martin Pospisil. So
they have a few guys right around league min.
Yeah. So it's easier to fit guys. And the other benefit to the Calgary Wranglers being in Calgary, if they ever want to try someone for a day, you don't have to worry about a plane ticket or anything like that. You can call them up the day of, and they're already there. You can see them practice because they're going to be in the same arena. The coach is going to get a real good look at these guys better than he has before. It's going to be a good thing for a lot of these prospects that definitely have aspirations to get called up. So
the league minimum forwards right now are Clark Bishop, Ben Jones, and Martin Pospisil and Matthew Phillips. So, I mean, couple of those guys will be playing in the NHL. Who knows for how long? Who knows if they're there for the whole season? But I mean, he's gonna, if he can put himself in the conversation. Like I remember with Michael Ferland stylistically, Michael Ferland got on the NHL radar by playing that way and staying healthy. So fingers crossed that Pospisil is going to do the same thing because that'd be a fun story. I mean, his brother didn't quite make it to the NHL. It'd be kind of fun if Martin did. The other signings, first of all, Oliver Shillington. 2 years, $2.5 million. He got paid a little bit more than Dante Fabro and a little bit less than Gustav Forsling. Feels about right. He's still establishing himself. And if we're playing devil's advocate, one really good year bumped him up from league
long-term min. Banking on one year.
He went from league min to 2.5. They
can re-up him next summer if he repeats it. If he repeats it, you can sign an extension as soon as free agency rolls over next summer if you wanted to. There's going to be a few players that they would be able to do that for, such as Tanev, Zadorov, and Hafen. Like the D-Corps has pretty much signed for 2 years outside Uyghur. So
yeah, and I think it's a kind of interesting thing because I mean you probably want to figure out Uyghur soon because assuming they're going to try to keep Uyghur.
The Uyghur Huberto thing, or like if you're not sorted by January 1st, you're going to have to start looking at moving.
Yeah, like they're going to have,
you can't lose it.
they're going to have to figure out Hanifin. They're figuring out Tanev, Zadorov. Like I think it'll be an interesting summer, 2 summers from now. But in the interim, I mean, Shillington, he's one of the more fascinating, exciting stories of the Flames last couple of years, because he was up and down from the AHL constantly. Then he finally got a full-time gig, and then the Flames, like 2 trade deadlines in a row, make trades with the Kings so they didn't have to play Shillington in the playoffs, or at least so they had some insurance in the playoffs. But the way it materialized was Shillington didn't play the playoffs, and then they missed the playoffs entirely. Then the next season, the bubble
camp,
the bubble year, he went on waivers. 30 teams had a chance of getting him. No one took him. He was on the taxi squad all year. Then last year he was exposed in the expansion draft. People don't, obviously, people think about the players the Flames protected in the blue line, and the one player they lost, Mark Giordano. The Seattle Kraken very much could have taken Oliver Shillington, and they were like, we'll take the old guy. And we love you, Mark Giordano. Never changed. You're great.
Old guy got draft capital.
And that's the reason you do it. You do it because you're not planning for if you're Seattle and you're thinking Vegas style, you want to plan for the future, you probably go for Shillington. If you're Seattle and you're going, we want to punt on, get more assets, and
I want to draft my own players kind of system. That's what they've done. They're like, I want to pick and draft and develop my guys.
If that's how you want to do it, that's the way you want to do it. But yeah, Shillington, he was the 7th D to open the season. He only played in the regular season opener against Vancouver. I forget who the hell it was.
Wasn't it?
I forget who it was.
We played like 3 minutes.
Yeah, but he played. Yeah, he was 7th D because Blake Coleman was suspended for the opening game, and the Flames didn't have cap space to bring up anybody from the farm team. So Shillington played because they had nobody else. They had a couple injuries. I believe Pitlick was injured from training camp, but not on the IR, and they also didn't want to do anything with LTIR for what I remember. Coleman was suspended, so they only had like 1 extra forward, 1 extra defenseman. So they threw him in. There might have been 2 extra defensemen. They didn't use Stone, but they used Shillington instead. But yeah, they used Shillington as a 7. He was fine. He got healthy scratch the next game. During the first couple of games, Nikita Zadorov got banged up a little bit, and when he wasn't banged up, he wasn't great with Tanev. He was fine, but
it wasn't. Yeah,
I think they
struggled to get out of their own zone. So
as will happen, and they decided, okay, let's give Oliver a chance because he's a healthy defenseman. And they didn't really have many other options at that point. They
never had to look back.
Yeah. So Oliver Shillington, congratulations, you're a full-time NHLer, and you have, regardless of what happens to you from here on out, you're gonna get paid. So
you
very well
earned
done.
your spot. Like you got your shot. You basically took Valimaki's spot from him, or you could argue. Yep. And
there's no argument. He took it.
Yeah, you took. Yeah. It's the history book's been wrote. He took it. But I just love that. Like this year, like you don't you have your decor that just finished first in the Pacific. You traded Goodbranson for Uyghur for this season, and if you can sign him, then you've got this decor locked up for at least 2 more years to try.
And you have a goaltending tandem that was third. The goaltender / defensive tandem was third in goals against last year. I think were 6 goals off from the Jennings. Something like that, 6 or 7.
They were
goals.
just shy of Carolina.
There's
only 4 players on the roster right now that you don't have to worry about for the next 2 seasons at all. One is Markstrom. One is Rasmus Anderson, who has one hell of a contract right now. The other one's Blake Coleman, and then there's one more player that we haven't talked about yet.
The current 4th player in salary for the Flames until other deals get done probably next summer, or between now and next summer.
Right now.
He's 4th.
Who's in actual? Someone making actual cash more than him?
Oh, for cap hit, it's Monahan.
Oh yes, sorry, I
forgot about Sean Monahan. But we're talking about
Puckpedia has him on the IR list.
We're talking about Andrew Mangipani, who avoided arbitration the day before they were supposed to put in their arbitration briefs, and he got a 3-year deal with $5.8 million. If you're thinking to yourself, $5.8 million, I wish that was for longer. You're right. The Flames probably wish it was for longer too. But I mean, Mangipani was, he scored 35 goals last year, and if you're playing devil's advocate of, man, that could be a very good value contract, he got basically 0 first unit power play time. He got basically zero first unit.
He played
time.
under 15 minutes a night. I think he was
15 minutes a night.
38.
He was playing primarily, basically stapled to the flank of Michael Backland all year. And if you're playing with Michael Backland, you know, two things. One, your analytics are going to be fantastic because he's Michael Backland. And two, you're playing against very good players. So Michael Backland does not have great offensive numbers because Michael Backland just historically, he's just, you know, sometimes the percentages kill him. And to be honest, Michael Backland is more of a setup guy, and he's a transition
guy now. Like he's kind of reevaluated himself, where he's number one priority every shift is to make sure the puck doesn't go in his net.
And honestly, I would argue that was a huge benefit to someone like Audrey Mangipani, because Mangipani and Backland and usually Blake Coleman were together. And they were awesome. And
it allows Manch to just be his pit bull self. Like I call him the beekeeper. I call him the beekeeper for this reason. So Nail Yakupov used to run on the ice, and he always looked like he was being chased by bees, right? Like you always just running, no words. Manch plays like the bees that were chasing Yakupov. So I call him the beekeeper. I love it.
So
he's relentless.
For those of you who are unfamiliar with the bread man, here's basically his trajectory as a professional. So he was not drafted in the Ontario Hockey League. He was a walk-on. He was eligible originally for the 2014 draft when he was 18, the same draft the Flames took Sam Bennett 4th overall. He was not drafted in that draft. He went out and had a 100-point season in the OHL, and then the next year, in 2015, in his second year of eligibility, he was drafted in the 6th round of the NHL draft, 166th. So he was drafted in the 13th round after being a walk-on in the OHL. And honestly, he didn't get drafted his first year from a combination of he's small and he'd only played 1 year in the OHL. So if you're a scout and if your GM's like, well, what does he project as? You're like, I don't know what his year-to-year growth is, because there's nothing to compare him to.
Growth. Yeah.
His second year, he had 2 years under his belt, and his trajectory was like a straight line up. He was phenomenal. And because he's small, he got drafted in the 6th round as an overager. And then he played 1 more year in the O. He had another 100-point season. He signed with the Flames. He played a year in the American League where he was very good. His second year, of his entry level, he played, I believe, 10 games in the NHL and the rest of the season in the AHL when he was very, very good. Midway through the 18-19 season, he was called up to play on the 4th line with Derek Ryan and Garnet Hathaway, and they were phenomenal. And again, this will have some parallels to why he's been so good for so long in the NHL level. His entire job as a 4th liner, you had Derek Ryan, who's a very good puck manager, a good 2-way player. You had Garnet Hathaway, who's a buzzsaw, like he's got some size and he's not afraid to crash into dudes. And then you have
defensively,
he's very underrated, I think.
Yeah. He is. And then, one of the best top 5 penalty killer in hockey is Garnet Hathaway, and I will. And
he's got pace and anticipation, and that does a lot for him. But Mr. Mangipani was basically told, go out there, you're going to play 10, 12, 13 minutes a night, just be a pain in the ass, just pace. And between those 3 guys, they could get the puck, they could keep the puck, they could knock you off the puck, and they were really good. Mangipani scored a very nice goal in the playoffs against Colorado that year.
Poster goal.
Just a gorgeous goal.
I can close my eyes and picture him coming around.
I would argue that goal, it was a kind of goal where Garnet Hathaway just posted a guy along the wall and the puck squirted out, and Mangipani just knew where to be.
Dragged around a goalie.
And since then, he worked his way into the 3rd line, then to the 2nd line, and then he's played primarily with Backland and a rotating cast of characters on the other wing, a bit with Kachuk and Backland in the 3M line 2.0. And last year, most of the season with Backland and Blake Coleman, and they were very, very good. If you're asking yourself, man, is he going to be on the 1st line next year? My short answer is, I don't know, because I don't know what else the Flames are going to do. Depending on what happens with Tyler Toffoli, maybe Tyler Toffoli, comes in and he can, he's got great cardio. The cardio was the only thing that was keeping Tyler Toffoli, that and some terrible puck luck, from being a very good Flame last year. He was a good Flame. He could have been very good. But you can close your eyes and imagine a 1st line of Huberdeau, Lindholm, and Toffoli, because then you've got a guy who can dish, a guy who can puck retrieve, and a guy who can transition, and a guy in Toffoli who can just bury it. That sounds good. And then you keep a very good Mangipani, Backland, Coleman line together. Or, if you will, maybe you're thinking, well, yeah, I like Toffoli, but why can't they just move Mangipani up? And my answer to be, I don't know. I think maybe they might try that too. I think they're going to try a bunch of different things.
It's hard to tell fans to temper their expectations, but when we're three or four preseason games in September, don't be making rationalized judgments. They're going to look and see what each combination looks like before the season starts, just like they did last year, to see what works and what they have. And even throughout the start of the season, they're going to mix and match whenever there's a semi slump or something. Daryl's not shy to move his lines around. They're going to find what works. And when they find what works, that's what they'll run with.
If something clicks the way that Gaudreau, Tkachuk, and Lindholm did last year, they'll keep them together. Yeah. But absent a line cooking like that and being the best line in hockey, I don't think Daryl Sutter is going to have any sacred cows. He's gonna basically do what he wants to do and do what he feels like he needs to do.
Well, going into last year, I don't know if anyone, because based on how Sutter operated the lines ending the bubble year, did anyone have Tkachuk really projected as a first line right wing when he'd never played there? No. So when it started happening, everyone was like, oh, I wonder how this is going to turn out. Turned out to be the best line in hockey. But
let's not invoke decisions made in the garbagiest of garbage time, like the last night. They were, for God's sake, they were playing when the rest of the league was in the playoffs.
Vancouver, while teams won in the cup.
Garbage time hockey. I'm very thankful no one got injured during that time, because
I don't think anyone cared enough to get hurt.
But that's when you get hurt, though.
Yeah, when you're
preseason games, like the garbagiest of garbage time is when dumb crap happens, and hopefully nothing continues to happen. But yeah, so 3 pretty decent signings. I think Pospisil's got very good value, and he's got a chance to play. We'll see if he can come out of the gates with the start, and he'll have some competition. I know Jacob Pelche, a lot of Flames fans have Jacob Pelche penciled in. My read of the situation is that the Flames are very high on Jacob Pelche, and when a guy makes the all-rookie team in his rookie year, you go, And when a guy is the best player for most of the season on a team that includes a very good AHL player in Matthew Phillips and a very good AHL defense, or very good AHL center. Actually, he played with a bunch of good AHL centers. He played with Kirkland for a bit. He played with Glenn Godden for a bit. He played with Ruzicka. So I would say it's going to be a fascinating training camp, barring the Flames making other moves. It still feels like the Flames need another top 6 forward to make the mix click the way it needs to.
Peltz will only make it if the coach wants him to make it, but him having Huberdeau there is just like, it's one of those little things for me that I'm like, he probably grew up loving, like watching this French idol of his be an all-star,
same position from the same part of Quebec, isn't he?
Everything, and now he has a chance to be on the same team and learn from him. That is understated how important Jonathan Huberdeau being here for Pelche can be. Of course, everything's got to play out first, but that's
okay. Here's a question for you. Who's winning letters for the Flames next year? I would be
Backland, Tanev, Monahan.
I wouldn't be shocked if Huberdeau was letter.
I wouldn't be. Daryl doesn't really just do that though. Like
it's not necessarily Daryl though. It's about the leadership group. But Lucic didn't wear a letter last year because he didn't need one. Tanev didn't wear a letter the year before because he didn't need one.
Well,
there's some guys who don't need to wear a letter to be considered leaders.
Well, I don't know if we see a C. Like, I don't know if we see a C. If we did, I would pick Backland just because he's been here the longest. And when push came to shove, when it came time to play him, there's one other player that I would at this point think an A would be warranted, and that's Lindholm.
Yeah.
Lindholm at this point, like I would, if he was got a letter coming out of camp, I'd be like, well, he does it every day. Like there's a few guys I think Mange at this point with his contract, like I don't know who's in the room. Like I don't know who's up and talking. Like I know press access has been limited the last couple of years as well. So it's like I don't know who in the room is talking, but whoever gets picked, like I trust that right now you've got a hell of a GM in my mind. I always have supported Brad, and a hell of a coach. And you know how much I idolize Sutter. So like whatever they
you
pick,
need to wear more flannel if you idolize Sutter. That's what
I had a lot of flannel. It went up in flames. I had more flannel than was necessary. And now all I got out was a bunch of Flames jerseys, and none of them are relevant anymore. So that's why I'm wearing my Vikings, because at least Cook, he may got hurt in the first day of training camp, but at least he still plays for the team.
I don't know. That's one of the storylines that's gonna be interesting to follow in camp. Just the who's around and who's vocal and who might wear a letter. I think that'll be something to follow. But yeah, I think there's gonna be, we'll get into this in the future. There's a lot of defensemen that are going to be fighting for jobs. There's a lot of forwards, like depth guys, who be fighting for jobs. If you want to
talk about, like, the one thing about the defense is Tanev. I don't know what his timeline is, but he was projected to still be hurt to start the year when the injury happened.
Brad at the draft said he's expecting him to be ready for.
Okay, because if he was still hurt on IR, and you could waive Milosh, and you could do the 8, you could carry 8, but
they ain't gonna carry 8.
But something's got to give, and there's one specific that gets paid more than he's worth.
The head coach is not a fan of having a bunch of extra bodies around. If it was up to him, they'd have probably 22. And I think for cap reasons, 22 might be their best way to do it.
One forward, 1D extra. But here's the kicker. Where the AHL team is, you don't need to have them. You're not trying to fly them from California. They're going to be there. If you're in Edmonton, they're a drive away. If you're in Vancouver, it's a 2-hour flight. Like,
if they're in Winnipeg, it's a 7-hour drive from Grand Forks.
Depends which dog sled's available in the middle of the winter. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, I don't know. It's been an interesting week. It's been an interesting offseason, and I don't think they're done making moves. I think we're going to see a few more.
Still one RFA.
Adam Ruzicka.
Yep. So that has to get done. I don't think that's a rush though, because he's no Arbrights. So
I figure that gets done. I'd be shocked if it doesn't get done by mid-August, because just get it done. Have a chance.
Way more important things on the dock.
Sorry,
Adam. Your 30-some games is
give him a chance to just hang out and sort of clear his head, have it all dealt with, and then make a good camp out of it. But again, another guy who has a chance to be a full-timer, depending on how his camp goes.
Yeah,
and depending on other moves the Flames make. So.
Well, yeah, we don't even know. Like, everyone, they still got cap space, even with a full projected roster of 13 now. They got 72 goalies. They have about 1.2 million.
1.26.
You would know.
And that's with Valimaki as the 7, which probably isn't going to happen.
It's someone that won't get qualified if he doesn't make the team this year either. So that's the thing for me. He's going to need to be qualified. And if he doesn't make the team, they're not going to do it because it's too much money. So what's the point if you lose him on waivers? Like, you obviously want assets for an asset, but eventually.
I don't know if the qualifying offer really factors into it for him.
No, you wouldn't want it. You would, even if he didn't make the team this year, you wouldn't want, you'd give him 1.55 next year, even though you can't bury him.
You can still bury him though.
You can bury him, but you still got that overage on the cap.
So
you only bury 925.
They're burying him right now.
Unnecessary overage if you're not going to play him.
So if you think there's still tread in the tires, why not? And if there's not, then you see if you get value out of him. So I don't know. I don't think it'll factor in for them at all. But we'll see. I think that's we don't need to go an hour. I think we might as well round her out there. A very eventful week for Flames fans, a very eventful week for the Flames, and Brad Treliving making moves like he wants to go out to the lake and just sort of unplug his phone and lay on the sand for a while, lay on the grass at his beach house, just sort of chill for a bit.
I respect that he didn't wait until the day before either of the arbitration hearings as well. Like, most GMs tend to do that, like take it right down to the wire. He got back from Montreal and was like, all right, let's get all this stuff done.
Yeah, it makes you wonder it makes you wonder what kind of tasty meal he had there to motivate that kind of action. Maybe what do you think? He's a pasta guy, you think?
Brad? Oh, he's big carb guy. Work it off.
You think him had like a chicken Alfredo, fettuccine Alfredo with some grilled chicken, and then he just got off the planes like, let's do this.
I just want Ryan Leslie to ask him what kind of tie he wore to dinner. Yeah, it's an old reference.
Yeah, I remember that presser too. That's kind of funny. Yeah, so that'll close her out. FlamesNation Radio is brought to you by DoorDash and Eau Claire Distillery, the fine makers of Rupert's Whiskey, the official whiskey of the Calgary Flames. Hopefully you guys have a chance to enjoy yourselves and enjoy your beverage of choice before hockey starts to get going again. We are a week away from the World Juniors. The Ivan Hlinka, the Hlinka Gretzky Cup, formerly the Hlinka Memorial Tournament, is currently going on. It's on TSN. Check it out because some of those players will be drafted by NHL teams. A good amount of them will be, especially from Sweden, the United States, Canada, and Czechia, probably.
There's a Czech kid doing some insane things right now. Saleh is his name.
It's a fun tournament. I mean,
you should turn
August hockey is weird to me because I'm you're sort of still in like football or baseball mode, but if you're in the mood for some hockey, there's plenty of good hockey going on. And then before you know it, it will be early September and we'll be getting all revved up for Penticton. And then pretty soon it'll be October and we'll be like, only 82 games to go plus playoffs. So while there's this downtime, be sure to enjoy it. Let your family members know that you're still alive and you still think you still like them, and hopefully they still like you.
Look like me a little bit,
Yeah, your significant others. Spend some time with them. Bank some boyfriend or husband points during this period of time because you're gonna need to delve into that account quite a bit during the season. So make life easier on yourselves and your families later on by being nice to them now. That's your free advice from a pair of fools here at FlamesNation Radio. And with that, we'll close her out. Thank you very much for listening and for watching. We'll see you guys in a week where we start looking ahead and looking to see how the Flames look as they start careening towards the inevitable beginning of the 22-23 season. Have a great week.